Hello again, my friend Greg here with me. We're here to discuss my submission for Module 8, Unit 3, Activity 1, my lesson that covers a subtopic in the IB course guide about humans and pollution. It's subtopic 1.5, where this lesson is meant to discuss the ability of the scientist, the investigator, to use a systems diagram to evaluate impacts of pollution. And this involves a bit of recollection of previously covered material and things that we had learned about on an introductory level during the week prior. I chose to do this during a block period at the suggestion of my mentor about my original plan that was slightly less student-centered and allowed them to take on a bit more responsibility. I felt that it went fairly well, as my video, or at least I tried to show in the video. I started with the objective on the board in an introductory video, and what we were trying to do, effectively speaking, go from a linear consumption cycle and try to turn that into more of a circular component that is meant to go, instead of a cradle to grave approach, more like cradle to recycled cradle, basically. And I refer to that often, I think, in the video, as well as the introductory video, although it wasn't clear because of my inability to use photo booth. So the student input I tried to implement. They made some choices about what they wanted to work on. That's my attempt to include them with make it more inclusive. And they chose a topic, even though my intro ended up taking a bit longer than I had wanted to, it was still more student-centered than my original idea, but there was still room to make it more student-centered. I continue to fight battles with the mismanagement of access to technology, which I think we'll get to in a moment. I had an opportunity at the end of class to respond to some students who clearly mismanaged their time, as it was evident by their response in the student sharing portion that I chose to address at the end of class, while making it known that I was dissatisfied with that during the course of class. I feel that they understood the problem, and I hope that doesn't continue to be a problem. And again, there's some things that we can get to that a bit later. I think the students were generally engaged because of moving around and having different conversations about different things, although it could have improved. I really tried to implement, again, at your suggestion, the I do it, we do it together approach. And I wasn't sure, since this was the first attempt at this, if I was able to actually get, you do it alone portion to it. But eventually they get back to that later in the course.
Yeah, because it's something I did kind of notice within the lesson plan, and a suggestion that I was going to make is, and it's something I do need to work on myself too, so it's kind of helpful to see other people doing similar kind of practices as me, is how do you chunk or section things off so it's more scaffolded? Because I think in part of the lesson plan, and that's what I'm trying to pull up on this tiny phone, that you had kind of longer periods of time, like 10 minutes, which it should be appropriate for students of that age, but for our particular demographic, maybe by stating one instruction, having them demonstrate in front of you, like the I do, you do, we do, or I do, we do, you do, in that kind of a way. So they're doing little sections of that at a time, and then or presenting that at the end of a shorter time limit, like 5 minutes.
And I agree with you, that I tried to give them a chance to fill up a significant portion of this block period, not knowing how to expect what was expected at the end. But that's part of one of the things that didn't go well and I would like to change. Honestly, I felt that led to transitions that weren't as smooth as they should have been. I feel that leads to the misuse of technology, and as you said, having a more defined, compressed time frame to complete discrete tasks would eliminate most of the problems in the lesson. Honestly. And I did choose to do this because this class, the block period in this case, was 20 minutes shorter than a normal block period. But even still, I feel as though there was a bit more fluff in there than there needed to be, quite quite frankly. And that's one of the things that I would really change. You know, I would try to do even less me talking and more of them with a more robust set of instructions that told them you do this, 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 and this amount of time, whether it's me guiding that or it's on a project-based checklist almost. And, you know, I think that this would have been better by doing what you had said and having less time per individual task and more time dedicated to the individual component. You know, I tell you about something, we work on something together, having them in class immediately after that, go through the individual portion of it and being able to get real-time feedback as opposed to doing it as a homework assignment would have been more effective.
Because then they can get that real-time feedback to correct any misunderstandings or misconceptions and make those changes right in front of you.
And that's what I would have preferred to do. And disclosure, you know, this was completed quite some time ago. And about a week after I recorded this video and made this, you know, outline and reflection prior to making this debriefing video, I had an opportunity to do this lesson 2 more times. And the third time it went significantly better over the course of about 60 minutes worth of class as opposed to 80. And as we had discussed prior, you know, that extra 15 or 20 minutes really made a big difference in the effectiveness of class and I think of the retention of knowledge with the students as well.
Like one thing that we did talk about before recording this video was about the idea of like surveillance and monitoring student work. One thing you could maybe do, and I'm not sure if it's like one of the resources you've developed, but instead of creating things within PowerPoint, having it be within slides or converting PowerPoints into Google Slides. And then that way in Google Classroom, you can open up their work, see the timestamp of how much time they were spending on this section. And so you can use that as a way to monitor student progress towards completing assignments or
and that's
activities.
something we generally do use. I like the docs because I can see who does what when. On this particular project, I didn't take the time to go that far into it. But again, I would make this into a larger, you know, enclose the entire subtopic into this week-long lesson as opposed to a 2-class period, turn it into 5 or 6, and this be a component of it. And it's, as I continue to develop lessons, that's something I'm trying to move closer to. And I do like the timestamps because it really does, there's no hiding accountability in that regard. So I agree with you. This is still better than my first attempt, but there's still plenty of room for growth.
Yeah.
Anything else?
One thing you maybe could do, because of course students learn in different ways, one thing you could do to meet the needs of different like learning styles is with instructions, post them 3 different ways: verbal, written, and then what's the third one? Whatever the third one is, I can't think of off the top of my head, but having multiple ways of the instructions presented so that all students, regardless of their style, get those, and maybe that could help with like the clarity of the expectations, especially for the ones that were off task.
Yeah, I agree. And again, some room for improvement, and hopefully the next time that we do this in about another week, it's less to talk about bad.
Yep, there will be.
See you soon.